All right. I'm also going to drop our presentation into the chat here if you want to follow along, and all the district slides are linked on that slide deck, and then we'll just start. But this is going to be a kind of a combo from August and September. Kind of change some of the order around just so it was a little bit more cohesive. So it'll just be a info dump from both meetings. But they talked about end of year results for last year, beginning of the year iReady, and then also updates on the student outcome and constraint goals for the next 5 years. So the first thing they highlighted yesterday was end of the year, or this actually was from the August meeting. So in August, they talked about end of year results from STAR. So this is domain one. The district said that they were progressing in this goal. So the target was 58%. That is the pre-COVID target that was never changed after COVID. So the district said they were progressing because they did increase by 4 percentage points, but they didn't meet this target. But that target was set before COVID, and it had never been changed after everything that happened during the pandemic. Also noted when the STAR was redesigned. So the rigor of the test increased after 2022, and then the automated scoring for the English tests or the reading tests happened in the end of 2023. But it also has the data disaggregated by student group, and then the slides for the district, they're linked at the top. And so this is the same thing, domain one for reading. So the district increased by about 9 percentage points from last year. So they said that they were progressing in this goal, but again, the target had never been changed. So it didn't meet that target that was set prior to COVID. And then this is math, increased by about 7 percentage points from last year. And then this is the middle school subjects. There's an increase from about 3 percentage points. So the district said that they're progressing in this goal as well. Some of the highlights that they talked about was there was academic achievement growth in 58 of the 60 categories assessed, specifically at the meets level. So that means that there was growth for students who are getting on level versus just approaches. And then the district did outperform state growth for 80% of all categories for specific student groups, African American students, emergent bilingual students, and economically disadvantaged students, which is the majority of DISD students. They outperformed their peers in math and social studies. And then 93% of DISD schools are rated A, B, or C, and that is actually the highest of all time. And then it shows just the increase in A and B rated schools and the reduction of D and F rated schools. They mentioned that the overall district score is 83%. And then yesterday they shared goal 5. So this is lagged data related to CCMR. So the district said they met this goal. So their target was 67%, but they landed at 91.4% of students meeting CCMR. And then the data is disaggregated by student groups there. And then this is the percentage of students meeting TSI. So an increase of about like 30 percentage points almost. But this is inclusive of students who took college prep courses. So that meets this GPM, but it does not qualify for outcomes-based funding. So that's why it is kind of like a higher number. They kind of talked about a little bit more about that. Trustee Mackey, if you want to add any color commentary there, feel free. Otherwise, I'll continue.
Not if anyone else doesn't have any questions, but good morning, everyone. Great to be here.
All right. And then 5.2 is related to industry-based certification. So there was a decrease from last year, but they did meet the target. So they landed at 41.8%. Target was 37%. They did mention that the requirements for this GPM did change. So students have to obtain they have to pass a level 2 course in addition to passing the certification test, which was different from before where they could just pass the certification test. So that could be why there was a decrease. And then they also shared beginning of the year iReady results for this year. So the left side is last year's beginning of the year, and then the right chart as this year's beginning of the year. And the district said the green is students who are on level or above. The yellow is students who are one grade level below on grade level. And then red is one or more, so like two or even three grade levels behind. So the district pretty much was similar to last year's beginning of the year data, a little better. There's a little bit more percentages in the green. And they did say that the rigor of the test increases as the grade levels increase. So that's why there's kind of more students who are at that not met level as you go down the chart. And then that was for reading. This is for math, but same thing. The rigor of the test increases. And then they did share that they tested all eighth grade students this year, whereas last year they only tested students who were in eighth grade math, which is like 30% of students in the district. So the comparison for the last bar at the bottom isn't like one to one exactly because more students were tested this year. And then this is similar. It's just the GPMs for domain one, just establishing that baseline for iReady. So shows the data from last year's beginning of the year, iReady results, and then this year for reading, there was like an increase across the board for all of these GPMs. And then this is math. So pretty much the same or slight increases from last year's beginning of the year data. And then this is middle school reading, pretty much the same. And then middle school math, again, they did not test all students last year. So that's why it says no comparison data. And then finally, in August, they shared the metrics for the proposed goals this was voted on the August 28th meeting. So this has all been voted on as of today. But the goal for the end of 2030 is 55% for domain one. And what they did was they looked at historical data for the past couple of years to establish that slope and the growth for each target year after year. And then they also looked at the comparison to the state because they want to make sure that the district's growth is accelerated to be able to reduce um, that. Sorry, my dog's going a little crazy here, but to reduce the give me a second here. Uh,
Sorry, y'all, some technical difficulties.
all right. Sorry about that. Back in action, dogs a little unpredictable sometimes. But they looked at historically where the district was at in comparison to the state to be able to make sure that the growth would be able to be accelerated at the district level to be able to reduce any gaps with the state. So because of that, it's not quite a linear growth year after year. If you take a look, like the first year, it's 1 percentage point, and then the last year, it's like 3 percentage points. And they also talked about the importance of pre-K. And the idea is that the longer students are with the district, the better they'll perform year after year. So that's why there's also the expectation that students will perform better in those later years because theoretically they've been with the district longer, and that has been proven with data. So this is domain one for reading. This is domain one for math. Similar things. More growth is expected at the end of like 28, 29. And then this is reading for middle school grades, eighth grade specifically. So same thing, kind of a hockey stick kind of trajectory is what they're going for. And then this is for math. And important here is that this includes all eighth grade students. So that would be students who are taking eighth grade math and algebra. And then this is the CCMR goals. I think they did mention that the top goal, there might be some changes there. just because of where they landed this previous year. Um, so they didn't really talk about that in August because this was all shared in August, and they just revealed the results yesterday. And then these are the constraints that were voted on. So the first one is just high quality student experiences. Second was related to teacher satisfaction and retention. The third one is allocation of resources. These are similar to the previous constraints that were in like the racial equity office. And then the last one is just financial solvency. So that was both the August and the September meetings. I'll stop sharing. Um, but yeah, Ben, if you have anything, your initial thoughts to some of the data, that'd be great. I'll check out the chat if there are questions.
Yeah, great to be with everyone today. Think so glad there's so many folks here as well. This is the best turnout I've seen in a long time. At a high level, I think folks might have seen some of the news, but Dallas ISD, I mean, the results speak for themselves. I think both of these 2 months show that a lot of the reforms and new initiatives and everything that got put in last like over the last 3 years is having huge outcomes in terms of how students are performing. So I don't think that can be understated in this. I'm trying to think one of the things that was not touched on that I would love to just like overview. You all get in a preview of my newsletter, which will go out tomorrow. But Dr. Elzalde went through and shared kind of at her superintendent report at the night meeting a couple of like the overview of the data, but also some of the undergirding things because we know this doesn't happen just in a vacuum. So let me read you a couple things from here that are just some quick hits.